Hey, everybody. This is Ash.
And Armina.
This is Armenian Kids Club, our very, very first episode. It's an intro episode. It's not really going to be the usual recording, but we wanted to do an intro first. So we're gonna just talk about who we are, when we started, why we're doing the podcast, our mission, the format, and then how you can participate if you wanted to come and join us in the podcast episode.
Well, let me get in on this first, because there's a very important question, and this is the question that drove us to even start Armenian Kids Club, and it's what drives a lot of parents and educators to do a lot of things that they do in the diaspora in relation to this type of work. So when you think about it, like, do you want your child to blame you for not knowing Armenian when they grow up to be adults?
No.
Because it's a fact. Kids grow up, they forget all the Disneyland trips, they forget all the, everything you've done, all the gifts, all the huge parties you've thrown them for their first birthday, for their tooth coming out, for all the stuff that you've done. I mean, unless you have pictures and albums to prove all that. But that aside, they'll start blaming you for everything that's wrong with their lives, what they haven't gotten. So knowing that, we've prepared ourselves, right? We've decided they are not going to blame us for not knowing Armenian, even though they're born in the United States, even though we ourselves grew up here and didn't really have a formal Armenian education. We were not going to be blamed for the fact that they did not know Armenian. So everything we've done as parents has been sort of to fulfill that objective. So that fear drove us, but what keeps us going is the love that we have for what we do. So if you are one of those parents that worries about that, we got you covered. We've created an environment. We've created resources, books. We are working on digital content.
We'll start from go back. Reverse.
Լինում է չի լինում.
Go back to 2015 and
Լինում է չի լինում 2015 թվականին.
Oh yeah, English, but we're going to sprinkle Armenian. So
yeah, we're going to jump around a little bit.
Those of you don't know Armenian, apologies.
Որ չասեք էլի մի հատ հայերեն չեն խոսում. We'll just throw that in there. Although if we see that most people are asking us to speak Armenian, we'll do the podcast that way. So it just depends on who's listening to us. Right now, no one's listening to us. It's our first one, so we're listening to each other. Anyway, so we founded Armenian Kids Club in 2015, and it came basically out of a sort of crisis. 2015, we sort of started doing some work that was not really technically Armenian Kids Club yet. I had started working on a coloring book. I had some ideas about a flashcard. And these kind of things that were not really tethered to any main objective. But in 2016, after the April War, as many of you, if you recall, were in a really desperate situation and a despair kind of environment. And I found myself in that situation. And I was like, մեր երկիրը սենց է լինում, մեր ժողովուրդը սփռված ամբողջ աշխարհով մեկ քիչ ձուլվում են, հայերեն լեզուն կորում է, մշակույթը կորում է, ինչ ունենք չունենք կորցնում ենք. And I was just in this like spiral of despair. And I don't know what it was that snapped me out. Most likely it was one of my kids spilling something on the floor and screaming, "Mom, you're in this world and you just can't stay there because your kids need you," right? So it must have been something like that where something snapped in me and I said, we are doing what we're doing now for our kids and for their future. And I don't see the future of our kids not including knowing their culture, knowing their heritage, knowing their language, knowing where they come from and who they are. And so I think it just became a culmination of all the things that I had sort of thought of doing and me and Ash had talked about, doing. And it was only very, it was very just like a hobby, whatever.
It's kind of hard to call something you stay up until like 4 a.m, 5 a.m, a hobby. Nobody
it
does.
Was something we loved, but
Yeah.
it wasn't something that we had like
Took
a
a lot of
business
work.
plan for or anything like that at the time.
Still takes a lot of work, but yeah,
Yeah, of course.
just want to interject.
So, yeah, it sort of became our mission. We decided to make it a business instead of a nonprofit because we did a lot of research and found, if you are depending on contracts or grants or things like that, or sponsorships, a lot of times they're very short-lived. There were a lot of great programs that I remember were around, but unfortunately they did not continue because they didn't have any more financial support. So we decided to take Armenian educational resources, books, and these type of things, and see if we could build a business around it so that it could be self-sustaining. So 6 years in, and we're doing well. I mean, we have created about 14 early reading books. We've created 15 coloring and workbooks. We've done these all in Eastern and Western Armenian. We've created flashcards. We have another set of flashcards coming out. We have
Finger puppets.
we have finger puppets.
One set.
It's a set.
So far, we have another one. It's not a finger puppet coming out. Okay, I'm not going to say. It's a toy.
We have a lot of really, really cool things in the works that are coming out all the time. If you are following us on any of our, social media pages, you'll know that there's always something new happening, popping out. And in the beginning, it was mostly myself. I started off learning to do animation on my own by watching YouTube videos, and then I just created an alphabet animation. Some of the illustrations in the early books were done by myself. But in terms of the editing process, in terms of ideas about what's going on, I asked everyone. My family contributed a lot. They gave me a lot of good insights. I spoke with bookstore owners. I spoke with teachers, parents, kids. I mean, we were doing, full on
Quality check.
research and quality check, right? Because we wanted to make sure, what we were doing was serving the people that we wanted to serve. And thankfully, we lived in Glendale. And in 2016, in October, we had our very first festival that we participated in, and that was in Tahunga, California. And that day has lived on in our hearts forever because it basically launched Armenian Kids Club. We had only 3 coloring books and 1 flashcard and a whole lot of ideas. We, at the time, had a partnership with Henry Hovanesian, who was... he was an animator, and we were actually, and we still have a lot of really great ideas that's going to be in the digital content format coming up very soon. So there's a lot of things brewing in that direction. But because there was such a big, a big request, a big
Demand plus
Demand.
low-hanging fruit. I mean, honestly, creating digital content is very time consuming, especially on anybody who's done animation.
And especially when you're broke
And when
with
you're
3 kids.
broke, 3 kids, no time, and lots
And we
of other
both
priorities.
we had jobs. I had a semi-part full-time job, and
So yeah, I mean, that was low hanging fruit for us to start. We started
we
printing.
just started cranking out more coloring
wasn't
books,
supposed to be
workbooks. It wasn't what we intended to, really do. We wanted to just sort of see what was needed, see what was out there, see what people were responding to. And there were some coloring books out there that were really outdated, that were not geared towards children. They didn't really have, child psychology in mind when they created some of these books. I mean, they were horrific.
Reading books from Armenia. I mean,
Reading books were very outdated.
insane.
I mean, since then, we're talking about 6 years ago, or even before then, when I was researching, just for myself, when my kids were born, before they were even born, I had set, books and books and books ready for them in Armenian. But while, shopping for these books, I was like, that's when, sort of these ideas started percolating in my head, where I was like, why don't we have this in Armenian? Why don't we have that in Armenian? How come we don't have that and that and that? And when the time came, all those things came back, and I was like, we got to do this. We got to do that. We have to do, and we just sort of started shooting at everything. So we didn't launch just one book or one workbook we just launched everything. We started producing, constantly creating. And thankfully, over the years, we have partnered with amazing, talented people from really all over the world who have supported us either through, their advice or their work.
Armenia, Canada. But
Armenia,
the way we
Canada.
started in the beginning, we started producing all kinds of stuff, all kinds of books. It was actually good. We did that by accident. We didn't even realize I think we were doing it the right way, because it didn't exist really. And so we're like trying to figure out, okay, is this good or bad?
Right.
Even though we did
There's
all
no
the quality
research.
checks. Yeah, we did all the checks and stuff. We asked people, but once you print it and you put it out there, then you see, does it work? What doesn't work? And then you change it and make it better. So unless we did that, it was kind of like hard to know if it's going to fly.
We've had
so to
several
speak.
iterations of some of the books. So, we would print something out and it would be based on what I'd seen, for example, and, what we could have improved on that already existed. But then when we put it to use, we found even more ways to improve it. So we actually had teachers use them in their classrooms. And they said, if we did this, it would be really great. If we did that, it would be really great. And honestly, I can't even list the teachers, because there have been so many, beginning from the teachers and staff at Mertinian. The very, very first educator I spoke with, Dikin Ashken, she is since retired, but I was sitting with her speaking, and I would ask her a question, and she just opened up this chest of information, like this treasure chest of information. And I had just simply asked her the origin of like a word or something. And I realized that our educators had so much to give. They had so much that they needed to transfer to our children. But the vehicle to do that was really outdated, and they weren't able to do it efficiently. They weren't able to do it in a way that kids can utilize it better, Like, for example, some of the books that they were using were not relevant to the kids here who were learning with these books. And there was a disconnect. And I think to a certain degree, there still is a little. I think the two biggest things that have changed in the last maybe 10 years is the production and quality of books coming out of Armenia. They've done a lot of translations, so that's helped a lot in the volume, because they have not been creating things from scratch. They've been basically, taking really popular books, translating them. But even that has filled the gap, for a lot of that material. Kids need to read things all the time. I mean, you can't just tell them the letters, teach them the letters, and say, okay, go ahead, you're done. You need something else besides just the letters and besides the classical, stories that they read. And, if you guys have read a lot of Armenian stories, a lot of them are depressing. They're not like these cute tales that
all that stuff is coming from Soviet era. I mean, nobody's
not
updated.
Just that, it's just our history is so like filled with depressed events and these things where, I mean, it's part of our culture. I'm not saying we have to
but we don't have to pump the kids' brains
but,
with the depressing stories and horrible like illustrations from 1940 something.
Yeah, exactly.
Fonts that you can't really read. It's so small.
Squiggly
and,
fonts.
I mean, all that stuff needed to change. Basically.
Yeah, so
that's the problem. That's the pain point. That font, illustration, stories, and all that stuff.
How many times have people told us, I love this book? Why? Because the font is big. I mean, it really wouldn't even matter what was printed as long as the font was big, because that was one of the biggest struggles. And actually, I noticed that struggle when we were doing homework with our daughter, when she had the Armenian homework on one side and she had the English homework on the other side. And the English was like this big, beautiful picture, big fat letters, easy to read, easy to understand. And on the other side was like this photocopied, tiny little print.
The key thing is the book is geared towards that kid's age.
Yes.
And at what development stage that their brain is at that point.
Right. And, we don't have that background. What we have is the experience when it was like this guerrilla sort of thing, because we were in the trenches. We were with the kids. We were seeing what they hated, what they liked, what was the thing. And then by the time it got printed, once it got to the point where people were able to use it, it had gone through those specialists. So it had gone through the teachers and the child development people who had that background, who told us, oh, don't use that word, use this word. Oh, this picture is not relevant, or this thing. So we had that sort of as a way to, serve the purpose that we wanted, which is, make sure that kids are the ones who are going to be able to understand this. So there was a comment, a review that kind of stuck to my mind. And I think that kind of illustrates this point. One of our customers had said this book was really simple and boring for an adult.
Good.
But my child can't stop reading it. She asked me to read it over and over and over again.
Yes.
So we're like, we that was our mission, right?
Actually, there was another adult not long time ago, but months ago, or maybe a year ago now, from UCLA, right? She used our books to learn the Armenian letters. Mm-hmm. So depends. I mean, so story was not great for an adult, but at least adults have used and probably still use our level 1 and 2 coloring in workbooks,
right,
to learn the letters.
Yeah, that's our most popular book. So aside from that, I wanted to kind of go into the other things we've done since we're introducing Armenian Kids Club, and there might be people who don't really know what we've done. So besides that, what we wanted to do was also create a community around storytelling, around fun things that you can do in Armenian, right? Because if you can't do fun things in Armenian, what's the point of knowing Armenian, right? If Armenian is only something that your parents force you to go and learn, you don't have a positive connection with the language. You don't have a positive. It
becomes a chore almost.
It becomes a chore. It becomes something that
why do I have to learn Armenian?
Yeah. So we started doing storytime events. We organized a few each year, maybe for the past 2-3 years, excluding the year that shall not be mentioned. And it was just amazing. We did like arts and crafts. We did games related to the stories that we were reading, and really had a really positive feedback. Because I think that was another thing that was missing in our community.
Like getting kids outdoors and having them engage with other kids and learn Armenian and try to speak as much Armenian in that process as possible.
Right. And I remember when we were talking, we were talking about there are a lot of kids. And I remember Dr. Shushan Karapetyan, she gave me this statistic. I believe it was 5%. So of all Armenian, this heritage, Armenians with the heritage, children with Armenian heritage. Oh goodness. Okay. Only 5% were attending Armenian schools, and that included Saturday schools. It included the after school programs that they had in the public schools, and it included all the private schools. 5% of the population, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was in the California area. So the statistic was pertaining to California, but which is one of the most populated states, right, in the United States.
Because it costs so much money.
So, but
Per
it's
child.
just 5%. So what is happening with the rest of the 95%, right? What's happening with everyone else who's not attending a Saturday school, who's not attending a private school, and who doesn't have, the benefit of having maybe a grandmother who speaks to them all the time in Armenian or reads to them in Armenian. Thankfully, one silver lining that came out of this pandemic was the surge in remote learning, which included Armenian. And I mean, I was ecstatic because there is another way for the 95% of those Armenians to attend Armenian classes. So that's another really, really exciting thing.
Well,
but
classes
lessons. I mean, Look, whatever it is, it's better than nothing.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely better than nothing. But the thing, like, I'm worried is, and I mentioned this to you, kids coming out of their Zoom class and then jumping into another Armenian class, quote unquote, on their laptop. They're constantly in front of the screen.
Right.
Like, I physically can't wait until we can get outdoors and hold events and get these kids outdoors. But yeah, it is what it is.
But, that 95% was also at the back of our minds when we were thinking about how to create our resources, right? So we were like, it needs to be affordable. It needs to be something that's accessible for anyone, anywhere, from any kind of background. And so we also decided that we must do it in both Eastern and Western Armenian. And that posed a big challenge for us. We are of Eastern Armenian background. But aside from that, just printing all those books, just translating them and editing them and all these things. And
they're printed in the U.S., so we store them as well.
I don't know if you guys can see, but back here, that's where we have our books stored so far.
Yeah, managing that inventory of 2 dialects. And then somebody came up to us and asked, for a third. I was like, what? We have a third? So, yeah, we're not doing a third.
You're saying that because you don't know some of the hidden projects that I have, but I have already...
You're doing the third then.
I already have several of our books written in Eastern Armenian with classic orthography.
50 Armenians in the planet. We have like 3 dialects.
Look, it's our cross to bear, but it has always been our motto that we will remove any hurdle that there is for anyone wanting to learn Armenian. So we've been taking every suggestion from everyone and trying to really, really push ourselves to create those resources, right? So I've even begun a translation of our books. So there's maybe 4 or 5 books that we've already gotten written out in Eastern Armenian with classic orthography. So we have those. Also, they are not printed yet, but they have been translated. They've been
specifically for schools, though, right? I mean,
there were some schools, yes, that's the way they were teaching. So,
the average person at home who wants to teach their kids Armenian, they don't have to worry about this third.
Right, they're just going to choose one or the other. My point is, we're doing everything and anything, right? So there should be no excuse for anyone.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing this newsletter that we have. If you're not signed up, you can sign up. It's free. She sends out every week. There's free printables you can download and give to your kid for just practicing and having fun coloring, but learning something.
Yeah, I mean, I started this. When did I start it? Right before Corona hit.
A year and 2 months.
It's been over a year, but it was because a lot of people were not able to get books shipped to them, right? Because of the coronavirus, they had shut down airports and we weren't able to ship to some of the countries, or if we were, they would take forever to arrive. So we had a surge of people who said, "Oh my goodness, can we get your digital books online?" And at the time, I mean, it's something we are working on, but at the time it was not something we could do easily. So what we could do easily was, create alphabet, practicing, pages to practice the alphabet and all these things. And that's kind of why I started doing those and including it in our newsletter. But I did want to say something when I was talking about the translations, the editing and all that stuff, because it is a really key point to our success. And we have amazing people who are working with us. And we wanted to make sure that as much as possible, we wanted to find these people living in Armenia. So we have 2 native Western Armenian speakers living in Armenia, both from Syria. And they do the work required to produce the Western version of all of our books, newsletters, and everything in between. And I really wanted to thank them very much. Osniv and Betty, you guys are amazing. And honestly, none of this would have been possible without you guys, because aside from, just the editing and translation, you guys have been very, helpful, because both have a background in child education, and
they both have a crap ton to do already.
Yes.
So, and they're doing that on top.
And they're doing that on top of that. So, and our illustrators also.
What's up, Lucina?
Hi, Lucina and Zhenya. We work with them. We also are working with several new people. One is an illustrator. Her name is Louisa. And she worked on the spring coloring book. And I think it turned out fabulous. That's our newest book. If you guys haven't checked it out, go ahead. We are crossing over into summer, but, it has a lot of really incredible activities to help with practicing the alphabet, writing, reading, and just fun stuff. And also, Zhenya, I wanted to mention her as well, because she's working on a lot of our classic books. She's the one that worked on the Bapnu Shachkam, and Goharik Nushanika. She's done Makneri Zhorov. Yeah. So that's the next one coming up, by the way. So I'm not sure when this will be published, but most likely sooner than the book. But the book is in the printing press. So I'm going to go pick that up very soon, and that will be out and available for purchase also.
By the way, we didn't even mention obviously they're going to see when we upload, but we're in May 2021.
May 2021. And it's still not feeling very summery in California, which is strange. We recently started working with Lucina, who is an educator. She's an early school educator. So she was teaching preschool and kindergarten age children for a long time. And when I was introduced to her, she was looking for work, and we clicked right away. She has insane amount of energy. If you guys know me, I know I talk a lot and I seem like I have a lot of energy, but she just completely topples me. She has so much energy. She's excited all the time. And we are brainstorming, and she's like, well, we should do this and we should do that and we should do that. So there's a lot of cool things coming up that we're going to be working with her as well. And we are, the more books we sell, the more things we do, gives us more opportunities to expand. And with that, create more jobs in Armenia, which is really strange for me to say, because
it's not we're helping, obviously. It's not like we're creating thousands of jobs.
It's not a factory with thousands of people, but at least 5 people, right? It's 5-6 people.
Better than outsourcing to wherever, India.
Right. Yeah. So there are at least 5-6 people that we work with. And I'm, the way we have envisioned the future of Armenian Kids Club, it's going to have more, right? We're going to have more people working with us, doing more amazing things. Anyway.
So what are we doing? Why are we doing this podcast?
Why are we doing this podcast? That's right. Point? I forgot we were talking. I thought we were just chatting. I thought we were just talking, because me and you, when's the last time we sat down and really, really talked?
It feels so weird. She's right there. 10 feet away. But yeah, we've been talking about having a podcast.
Sorry. What? Before we go to the podcast, I have to mention Yevofe and the recent collaboration we did, because, oh my gosh, that was one of our mutual projects that just accidentally we found that we were both thinking of something similar, and we decided to work on it together. It's called Color My Journey. And we worked on it for about 2 years because we were just very, 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 very busy. But it was something that, we really wanted to do. It's like sort of a travel guide for people going to Armenia.
You have it? Let me grab it.
Yeah. It describes each province in Armenia, and it talks about the different places you can visit with your kids. Interesting places. There's games. There's activities in there. And this was recently published as well. That's our little Vartan there with the classic Yevofe bird. We've incorporated our 2 styles in there. And this was just a really fun thing to work on and collaborate. And we are looking at collaborations in the future with other creatives and artists and people who share, amazing ideas. We will have Elin, the founder of Yevofe, on our podcast. We will have other amazing educators, creatives, book authors. We know a lot of our friends. Nelly is one of them. She's going to be on here, and just a lot of fabulous people doing, creating new books in new ways, speaking to the younger generation, speaking to our diasporan kids in a way where they are being engaged and their heritage and their language is being transferred, which is, a goal, right?
And we're going to have kids involved.
Yes.
So every so often we'll have kids joining, whether they're, one of our kids or somebody else's. Who
Naidi is really excited to answer questions, by the way.
So what do kids think about some of this stuff?
She was asking me the other day, can I be on the show? I want to answer questions. I like when you guys ask me questions.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to get a kid's perspective, like not
we'll
like a whole hour, because
brains.
they can't sit here for like half hour, 45 minutes, but short segments.
Yeah, we'll see what they think. Or, we will maybe have a story that we read, speak to the author, and then maybe have, kids interpret what they think of that story, what they got out of it. And yeah, I think it'll be interesting to hear their hear their voices too.
So the final piece of this, we're going to wrap it up, is the format of the show. So this is obviously the first intro, but the format will be twice a month, every 2 weeks. We don't know the exact date we'll release, but we'll try to be consistent. It'll be video like this available on our YouTube channel, and the audio of it will be available on all podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from. So we have to kind of prep that. And then we'll have guests. We're not sure if we're going to have guests every single time, but we have 24 guests already lined up on, they don't know about it, but we're going to get in touch with them and we know them. So about half hour, 45 minutes each episode, maybe an hour, depending on the topic. If there's stuff to talk about, we'll go the full hour, But
there's always stuff to talk about.
Yeah, just keep harming it. Talking.
I always
we'll go
have
for 3 days.
to talk about.
And that's it. If you wanna participate, we'd love to have you. If you've got education background, your mom, doesn't matter. If you're interested in this topic and you have something that you want to discuss, let us know. You can send us an email, armeniankidsclub.com or ash@armeniankidsclub.com. Just tell us what topic, who you are, your background, and then we can possibly have someone who's an expert in that area, depending on what it is. And it'd be great. We can have, 4, 5, 6, up to 6, 7 people, I think, in this video podcast. So we've got plenty of room. That's it.
Share. Tell people about us.
Oh, yeah.
Spread the word. Let people know what we're doing if you think what we're doing is worth it. And stay tuned for the next one. See you guys soon.
Yeah, definitely. So in that process, if there's things that we haven't thought of and you think, gee, I wish something like this existed in print form, you can let us know. Obviously, there's a lot more people doing print now. There's, one-off authors that have 1 or 2 books that they printed. But, the
more the merrier.
More the merrier. So if there's something missing,
we need more voices.
There's a 4th dialect we don't know about, don't call us.
No.
Kidding. That's it. So we'll see you guys second episode. Thanks.